Hello, friends, and thank you for joining me for this live stream. We are going to be talking today, or I should say, I'm going to be talking today, and you're welcome to contribute in the chat, and I will respond to you about how we communicate value to potential clients. Now, a lot of coaches, consultants, and service providers do a discovery call, a strategy call, a goodness of fit call, or a free consultation. I happen to call mine a free consultation, kind of a throwback to my many years as a licensed psychotherapist in private practice. But I decided to continue that when I became a business strategist and coach because it's really important to me that there is a good fit. And it's really important to me that the people that I am working with and the people that I'm considering working with are right for me and I'm right for them. And they're ready to do the work in order to be successful. I think a lot of people don't even realize that when they are looking for help in their business, in their marriage, in their health, in their life, whatever area that they are looking to improve, they don't necessarily realize what their expectations are for the other person. A lot of people get caught up in someone's marketing and think, wow, that person really seems to know what they're talking about. That person really seems to have it all together. They may even be subconsciously thinking, I want to be them. Or they might be thinking, like the famous scene with Meg Ryan, I'll have what she's having. But what they don't necessarily realize is maybe you're not the right person for them. Maybe they're not the right person for you. Maybe it's not the right time. Maybe they're not ready. Maybe they don't understand what's involved in doing the work. And so it would be really impossible for them to accurately place a value on who you are and what you do. So sometimes people just buy services or hire someone or join their program based on whether they think they can afford it or whether the amount of money being charged, the amount of time being required, that sounds about right based on I don't even know what. Or maybe they've been shopping around. Maybe they have been looking at other people, other programs, other packages, and if your price point and what you seem to be offering is generally in the ballpark, that may be all they need. But something I learned moving from being a licensed psychotherapist to moving into the coaching realm is that it's much harder to establish your value, what the value exchange is going to be when you step away from a professional service that's really well established. For example, psychotherapy as a professional service has been around for a really long time. And in every community, there's kind of a set market value. It's probably a range, and the range is probably not extensive. It's probably within a certain amount of dollars. This is also established by what insurance companies are willing to reimburse. We're talking now about an hour of psychotherapy time. In every community, there is a community standard for professional services for an hour of time for a therapist, for an accountant, for an attorney, for a veterinarian. So professional services, there is an established market rate. That doesn't necessarily mean value, and I'm going to get into that in just a couple minutes. There's an established market rate. So let's say back to the psychotherapy example, someone looking to hire a therapist, if they want to use their health insurance, as many people do, and many people expect. This is health, mental health is health, even though we're still fighting for parity. 2023, almost 2024 here. A lot of people think, okay, my mental health is part of my health. I have health insurance. Therefore, my health insurance should cover this service. And health insurance companies, by and large, do partially cover the service, but based on a standard market rate for that particular community. So if you're looking for a therapist in Beverly Hills, you're going to be looking at a very different market rate than if you're looking for a psychotherapist in, let's say, Chino Hills or Covina or Torrance. So the established market rate helps people consider, can I afford this person? And is it worth it? Worth is such it's such an interesting concept, and so many people, particularly women in my experience, get caught up in the difference between the market rate, the value, and worth. Especially if we quote our fees to someone and they say, "Wow, do you really think you're worth it?" Now, most people won't flat out say that, but some do. Some do just to kind of throw you off and see if you'll budge. And some people are just sharing what's on their mind without a filter. But when we get that kind of feedback, we question it. And in my experience, most women question whether they're worth the amount of money that they may want to charge, simply because most of us are dealing with self-worth issues. So worth and value are not the same. Value has to be determined in the eyes of the customer. One of my friends talks about, Laura Khalil, talks about the difference between someone who has a flat tire and something that's not such an urgent emergency, right? So if you had a flat tire, if you are a single mom who's on her way from work to the childcare center to pick up your kids, the childcare center that fines you for every minute you're late past closing time, then you've got a bona fide emergency. Not only because you're a head of household and you are now incapacitated, but because you need to pick up your kids because they're going to freak out if you're not there on time, and you're going to be penalized by the childcare center. So the value of having someone that can come quickly and either fix your tire or change your tire is going to be very different than if you are someone who maybe is retired, has just played a few rounds of golf, and you're on your way home from the golf club and you get a flat tire. You could probably sit there and wait for your assistant or your wife or a friend or neighbor to come and pick you up, and you could deal with that flat tire situation in a more leisurely manner. So my point is this: value is in the eyes of the beholder. Value is in the mind of the potential client. Now, I am not the kind of coach or consultant who charges people whatever I think I can get away with. I want to charge a price that's appropriate to the value exchange. What I am exchanging with the people that I work with is my brain, my talent, my experience, my expertise, my wisdom, my perspective, my creativity, and my time, energy, effort, focus, attention, and opportunity cost for the amount of time that we will work together and the amount of thought and consideration that I will bring to our work together in between our sessions. I know what it's worth to me to give up that time, which is why I'm selective about who I work with. I am choosing to only work with people that I believe in, that I am excited about partnering with. I want to see them succeed, and I want to bring my time, energy, talent, wisdom, perspective, and creativity to bear to help them make that happen in their business. If I don't care about their business, if I don't care about them, if I don't connect with them, it doesn't bring out the best in me to work with them. So I don't say yes to those people. Now, let's talk about you. Most women have a lot of difficulty determining what the value of their service or program is. And I think that is because most of us get tied up in self-worth issues, imposter syndrome issues, comparatinitis, where we look at our peers and say, well, they're not charging this much, so I can't either. And this is exactly what I did when I started my private practice, which I have talked about in other live streams. When I started my private practice, I didn't have any referral sources. I was coming out of publicly funded mental health. So all the people I had worked with for 20 years were generally getting services from me that were being paid for by the government or some other assistance program. It wasn't coming out of their own pocket. Now in private practice, I either needed to get on insurance panels, so insurance companies would send clients to me who would not have chosen me. They would have found me on a list, saw that I was taking clients, saw that I was a reasonable distance from their home or work, and figured, okay, she sounds okay. They have a different way of evaluating and approximating value. Evaluate value. A person who expects their insurance to pay for an hour of therapy is going to value someone who's competent enough to meet their needs, convenient enough, and will accept insurance payment in full for their services. That's how they value an hour of therapy. Someone who doesn't expect to use their insurance, someone who may not want to use their insurance because they may not want an insurance company involved in their mental health services, and they have the means to pay out of pocket, that person will evaluate and place a value on a therapist by a different set of criteria. Yes, they will also expect the person to be in a convenient location. They will expect the person to be competent. But because they have the means to pay out of pocket, they're going to be looking for someone who is a perfect fit for them, a specialist, someone whose expertise and experience is in addressing the exact kind of problem that they have. They're going to evaluate that person differently by a different set of criteria. And when they find the person who is exactly what they're looking for, and there's good chemistry, they will be willing to pay more. Now, what's interesting about this is that there are people who could absolutely afford to pay out of pocket for therapy, who absolutely had the resources and the means to pay privately, but they didn't value being able to choose who. And they didn't value being able to find someone who was just right for them. They put a greater value on the fact that an insurance company was willing to pick up the tab. Do you see why knowing your values really matters? And I know I harp on this a lot, but it's so true. Many of us are not building our businesses with our own values infused in them across the board. And many of our clients are making decisions about who to hire without knowing what their values are. And if you are at all confused about what's the big deal about core values, right? Core values is just a term a lot of us use to know that we are talking about the same thing. But what it comes down to is what you value are your values. It's really as simple as that. So when you ask the majority of people, so What are your values? A lot of people just have a knee jerk reflex of saying family, friends, faith, and fun. A lot of people give you the F's, right? The other F's, I should say. But in many cases, that's not what they actually value. It's kind of the socially acceptable answer, but it's not actually true. What we value, what our potential clients value, even if they're not aware of it, we can tell by looking at where they spend their money, their energy, their effort, their focus, their attention, their time, and their, you know, all the things. So if someone says, I value freedom, but they are living a lifestyle that's very restricted and restrictive, and they really don't have a lot of autonomy or choice or agency, they either are a masochist or they don't value freedom in the way that they believe. So let's bring this home to your business. Why do you charge what you charge? Did you look around at other people in your niche or other people who do what you do and say, this seems to be the going rate for my services? So I'm just going to put myself in the middle of the pack? That's what many people do. They look to their competitors and say, this is what it's worth, so I'm going to do the same. That's a way of feeling safe, a way of blending in, and a way of kind of affirming for ourselves that this is what it's worth. This is what the value is. And other people will say, like I did when I started my therapy practice, oh my goodness, there are 400 other psychotherapists in this zip code. And had I wanted to get on insurance panels so I wouldn't have to market myself and I could just get a steady stream of clients from being on the insurance list, that wasn't even available to me because there were so many providers in my area that the panels were all full. I could not beg, borrow, steal, bribe. I could not get on an insurance panel, not a single one. Even the ones that were reimbursing at a rate that was so low, I would have been better off being a barista at Starbucks. So, in a way, I had to have a fee for service, cash pay only practice. I'm glad for that because it's far too easy to say, well, it's going to be easier to just be on an insurance panel and have them send me the clients. That way, I don't have to spend my time and energy going out and marketing myself and pounding the pavement and pitching and looking for people to refer to me. So, what did I do? I decided that since there were so many other therapists in my area, and since I had 0 referral sources when I started, and I mean 0, I decided that the best way for me to get going was to charge less than anyone else and to see anyone. It was kinda ridiculous when I look back on it now, absolutely cringeworthy. But as you may know, when you go to graduate school to become a psychotherapist, they don't teach you about private practice. So you really don't know anything about building a business or getting clients or any of that. Perhaps the programs have evolved and they're doing some of that now, but not when I went through in the early 90s. So I charged less. I saw everybody. And because I was such a good deal, and because I had so much experience with working with a variety of different types of problems, a variety of age groups, I saw kids, I saw couples, I saw families, I saw individuals, I saw elderly people. I did talk therapy, play therapy, you frickin' name it. It was exhausting. And I was not making very much money because, again, I was working on the cheap. So I was seeing way too many people. I learned the hard way that almost everything I did was wrong because I did not know how to communicate my value to the people who would be looking for someone just like me. If I had to do it all over, and this is the best takeaway moment from this live stream, if I had it to do all over, given that I was already very experienced in my field when I started my private practice, I would have, instead of creating a general practice, I would have created a specialty practice. I wouldn't have even bothered looking to the insurance companies because the customer, the client that I was looking for is someone who both had the resources to pay for therapy out of pocket, but someone who valued specialty expertise. I could have charged triple the amount that I did charge, and the point wouldn't have been so that I could be rolling in the cheddar. No. The point would be if I had had a specialty practice, charged more, sought out the specific clients who valued working with a specialist and had the ability to do so, I could have seen a lot fewer clients and made the same money. So my quality of life and my family life would have been much healthier and more balanced. So, what are your specific problems with communicating your value? It seems like a simple question, but it has some layers I want to unpack for you. Knowing how to communicate our value to potential clients means several things. One, it means that we understand that there's a difference between value and worth. Our worth is not negotiable. Our worth is not what's for sale. We are talking about an exchange of value. Dollars for time, energy, effort, focus, attention, wisdom, perspective, creativity, experience, and expertise. We have to be able to value ourselves first to be able to communicate our value to others. And that may take some work for some of us. And if you need help with that, I'm one of the people that could help you with that. So we need to know the difference between value and worth. We need to have a way of determining that what we know and what we have to offer has value. We need to understand who in the potential marketplace of all the people that we could work with, who values who we are, what we do, the way we do it, enough to pay the fees that we would like to charge. And that can take a little doing. That's basically niche work, it's messaging work, it's positioning work. But who would choose you if they had any number of alternatives? That's a really important thing to know because, for example, I do a lot of work with women who have ADHD. There are a ton of ADHD coaches out there. There are a number of coaches who work with women who have ADHD, and there are plenty of coaches who work with women who have ADHD who have their own business. But not all of those coaches actually have ADHD themselves. I do. Not all of those coaches are married or partnered and have children. I do. So, someone who may have ADHD and knows how to run a business, but doesn't understand that for a woman, your business and your ADHD are not the only things you're managing. You have a rich, full life with a lot of moving parts, a lot of competing priorities, and a lot of role conflict. What your business needs of you, what your romantic partner needs of you, what your kids need of you, your extended family. I have that experience. Believe it or not, one of the things that people who decide to hire me tell me they value about me is my extreme authenticity. I don't hold anything back. I tell you about my failures. I tell you about my shortcomings. I tell you what I've learned from them. Now, it's not the Diane show where it's all about me, but the fact that I'm willing to use my own fails and mistakes and missed opportunities as an example so you don't have to do those things, people tell me they value that. I also have a lot of people tell me they value the fact that I'm kinda sweary. They like it. And other people, that's a hard no. So I believe that in addition to having the awareness of the difference between worth and value, having a way of establishing your value in your own mind and having a way of determining who the exact right clients, customers, prospects would be for you, who value exactly who you are, what you do, and the way you do it, so that they would choose you, even though they may have many other options and know it. And I believe a lot of this rests on being who you actually are and not trying to reformat yourself into some copy of someone you admire. Your ability to communicate your value to prospects, in large part, especially now when there are so many cheaters, fakers, liars, con artists, and complete fakers there are selling tons of products and services. Because we may see someone and think, wow, she's so impressive. I want to work with her. I want to learn from her. She's really got it going on. I don't think I'm the first one to say this, but so many people that we meet online are not who they appear to be. They're just really good at marketing themselves. They're really good at giving you the impression that you need to have to be willing to hand over your money to them. And believe it or not, being who you are and being clear about who you are and what makes you different is the key. I heard it for years, but I didn't act as though it were true until I seem to be very hard-headed and have to learn everything the hard way. Until I had literally followed all the big name people and tried to do it their way, which I understand now is basically I just tried to be them. And of course it worked for them because it was authentic for them. It could never be authentic for me to try to be them. At best, I would be a copy, what I now call a silly putty person. If you don't know what that is, look it up. Um, don't look up silly putty person because I don't think it's anywhere, but silly putty is what you can look up, and you can figure out what I mean by that. Um, Nobody wants to buy a copy of a copy of a copy and pay a high fee. Now, if you are all about getting things for the cheapest amount of money possible, then you are buying copies of copies of copies. And there's a thriving market for fake everything, knockoffs of knockoffs of knockoffs. But if you are an independent professional, a consultant, a coach, a service-based business owner, there is nothing about being a copy of a copy of a copy that will help you be successful in business. A sustainable business is one that stands out and can be found and chosen by people who want exactly what you have to offer. And I mean exactly what you have to offer. Your quirky, neurotic, offbeat self with all your warts and flaws. And yes, I know it is hella scary to let people know who you really are, especially strangers on the internet. But the way we communicate our value best, most clearly, in the most compelling way that actually gives people the opportunity to find us, choose us, and hire us is by communicating who you are, really. Because there are many people who do what you do, but nobody does it exactly the way you do it because there's only one of you. I had a very interesting conversation with sales strategist Alicia Barr. We recorded an episode for the Driven Woman Entrepreneur podcast. It's out this week if you are watching this during the week that it has been released. And she talks about communicating value in sales conversations by being curious and having empathy, not by trying to close the deal, but by being curious about the needs your potential client has, the struggles that they're facing, what they're looking for, what they value in the person that they hire, and having empathy for the fact that they're just as scared as you are about hiring someone and having it not be a fit, not getting their needs met, not making progress in solving their problem, and feeling badly that they've wasted money and time on something that didn't work. They are just as scared as you are about making a mistake. So when we come to a sales conversation with that perspective, it is so much easier to communicate our value to the other person by determining what they need, what they're looking for, what they value, AKA what's most important to them, and then determining whether we are the person that can provide that. It takes so much of the pressure off and should put both parties at ease. So if you struggle with sales conversations, if they just feel gross and you don't know how to do them in a way that feels authentic, have a listen to that episode. And if you're not a podcast enthusiast, it is also going to be on my blog in a couple of weeks and is currently in my LinkedIn newsletter, which is also called The Driven Woman Entrepreneur if you're on LinkedIn. Lots of places you can find this information. So I want to thank you for being with me today. I think this is a really, really important conversation and something that a lot of people struggle with when they start their own business is how do I communicate my value to others? So just to recap, to be able to communicate our value to potential clients, we have to know the difference between value and worth. We have to know objectively what the value is in what we provide. We have to choose to believe that being our authentic self and communicating that to potential clients will help them determine if we are the right fit. And then showing up to sales conversations in a way where we are not trying to close the deal, manipulate the person, get them to do something that may not be in their best interest, but showing up in our authentic self and with curiosity and empathy, finding out what the person really needs, what they value. Do they value speed? Do they value efficiency? Do they value safety? Do they value cost? And then determining whether you're the right person to work with them so that they can get what they need and what they value. I hope this was helpful, and I hope you'll join me again next week. Bye for now.